Clone High is the first official new show on Max, HBO and Discovery's spin-off streaming service. The Revival series originally ran for one 13-episode season on MTV in 2002. As the title insinuates, the series follows clones of famous historical figures like JFK, Abe Lincoln, and Joan of Arc as they navigate the ins and outs of high school life. We're here to talk about the first 2 episodes. It's May 24th. Welcome to today's episode.
At the beginning of the month, we were scheduling which shows to do, and I was getting really excited because you told me that Clone High was going to premiere on May 23rd.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I have so much time to do it. Like, I have weeks upon weeks to watch the original series.
Yes.
And I kind of underestimated it because I was watching, like, an episode here and there. But then, right after we finished our Spy Master review, you were like, the next one we're going to do is Clone High. And I realized I was only on episode 8.
It snuck up on you.
So yesterday, I watched 6 episodes of Clone High, and then today I watched the premiere, kind of like you were talking about.
The funny thing about the premiere is, like, I watched the first 15 minutes of it. I didn't get through the first episode. I didn't have enough time. So we're basically going to be talking to you about the plot. But when it comes down to how they started it off, Will Forte gives the voiceover of longly awaited. For you, not so much.
Yeah, no,
it literally just went from one 2002 year to 2023. Like the characters.
As opposed to 20 years, yes, it just took me one day. But I did need to say a couple days ago, I actually went to a movie theater because they were hosting this event where they were going to show Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And I realized how much this show must have taken from that film because that film has
You mean the creators, Bill Lawrence, Christopher Miller, Phil Lord, yeah.
Yes, because in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, there are classical figures there as well, but so many that cross over. You have Abe Lincoln, Joan of Arc, Genghis Khan, Napoleon, which are made fun of in both.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the first cartoon that's made fun of high school shows or high school movies. But I actually want to start off with a little game like that and ask you, would you rather attend Clone High as one of the students or Riverdale?
Probably Clone High.
Okay, Clone High or Split River High, the school spirit show?
Clone High probably still.
Okay, Clone High or the high school in Velma, also a cartoon.
Actually, it's funny you say that because it did remind me of that a little bit, but Clone High probably still again.
Oh, you wouldn't want to hang out with the Scooby Gang?
No, especially if it's the
PC
Velma.
Scooby Gang? All right, Clone High or Vampire Academy?
Clone High probably still. I mean, the reason is because there's so many different people there. JFK, Abe Lincoln, Gandhi, and like all those.
Well, Gandhi's not there anymore, right?
I know, but I'm talking about like the original first season.
And I knew you knew about the original first season, but you know why it got canceled, right?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so you don't know about the Gandhi storyline that everyone's aware of? Basically, that there was like a revolt where people in India were fasting because they didn't want them to show Gandhi in the series anymore, and basically they got it canceled.
So that's the reason,
and that's the reason he's why not... MTV didn't re-up it.
I was going to say, one of my biggest cons with the show was that Gandhi wasn't in.
No, I mean, obviously he wasn't going to be. That was... it wasn't even an open secret. They said maybe if they reach, like, season 4, they'll do something with it. But they did make a connection to him. Like, within the first joke that Abe Lincoln has in the revival, he's talking to a turkey, right?
Yeah.
And it looks like the top of Gandhi's head.
Yeah, but they also show Gandhi for, like, a quick second, showing that he was still frozen in the chamber.
So... because I never watched the original series and I've only seen 15 minutes, I still felt like it was easy to understand. But you've got all these kids who are clones of famous figures, and in the end of the first season, they get frozen in time, and then they get blow-dried awake later on. And was it really that big a deal whether or not he was going to choose, Abe Lincoln was going to choose Joan of Arc to be with, or Cleopatra?
Oh, it was what the whole first season was about.
So is Abe Lincoln the protagonist of the show?
Yes, Abe Lincoln is the main character.
Is there a reason I read that he was actually the antagonist of the show?
Maybe I could see how you could possibly talk about the first episode this season, but like in the first season, he's completely the protagonist.
He's the good guy
whole time,
and so JFK is the bad guy.
Yeah, JFK is like the jock. He looks and sounds ridiculous. In fact, JFK is probably my favorite character out of the whole series.
Well, I liked because I did get to the part where he started saying things that would normally get you canceled, but because he was just so sex positive, people took that as a good thing, and so he was like safe. Does that backfire on him, like, by the end of the episode or not?
No, it doesn't backfire on him, but did you see the part where Abe Lincoln gets canceled and is put in the cancel corner?
No, he was being warned by Christopher Columbus, Topher Gus or Bus.
Topher Bus, yeah.
Yes, about all the things he shouldn't say, and it looked like he wasn't going to get... Did you think that Abe Lincoln was not smart enough to pick up on it, or like why wasn't he able to navigate the future?
I think it was just really making a commentary on how, things were so different from 2003 to now. I mean, literally he's saying like gay in a bad connotation. He's also he says Indian style, and obviously it's now Native American and things like that. One of my favorite jokes was when he is actually put in the canceled corner part of like the cafeteria.
Who's with him? Yeah,
because there's Marilyn Manson,
who was in season 1,
who makes a cameo. Yeah, at the very end of episode 2. There's Sheep Man, who
and so was
in
Woody,
the first season.
Woody Allen, I think, in the first. Or no, what's his name? Andy Dick.
You had a lot of different
Andy
people.
Dick was in the first season.
Not only that, though, you also had like Jack Black make a cameo, and
but not
John
in the cancel
Stamos.
box.
Not in the cancel box.
I think Andy Dick was in the cancel box. Right?
Oh, I thought that was John Wayne, or I only saw
no.
John
There is
Wayne
John Wayne
there.
Maybe I misread something.
Andy Dick
Yeah.
might be Sheep Man. I just call him Sheep Man because he was in the first season. He was like an actual character. And I think that's all we see of him in season 2, at least.
Yeah, he was Mr. Sheepman. He was police officer and Vincent Van Gogh. Those were the 3 people. So was the Sheepman in the cancel box?
Yeah.
Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why. Did it keep the same after-school special thing that it had always done in the first season?
Yes, yeah. I mean, it always is like this. You're about to see a very special episode.
And was it ever actually like a very special episode?
That was the funniest part of the whole show. Like Will Forte, it was always some type of previously where he would mess up somehow, or he'd just get tired of saying what was happening in the episode, and then they would always tease the next episode, which I think they might have gotten rid of in this season at least.
Huh.
But yeah, it's
like Arrested Development, where like Ron Howard comes in there saying fake things about the next episode.
Yes.
Gotcha. Who you said your favorite character was JFK first season? Does it seem like he's going to continue to be your favorite character?
Yeah, but the thing that I think I'm most disappointed about with this season is that there's so many characters it seems like missing, not only from the original season, but they also added so many different characters.
It reminded me, because I could already tell when Cleopatra was displaced as the queen, it reminded me a lot of Party Down, where you got the original cast there, but then you also have these newbies, and it took a little while for the newbies to kind of settle in, because they are supposed to represent the Gen Z crowd, but that didn't mean that by the end of Party Down, I wasn't enjoying these shows, and also that I thought that the characters, by episode 4, I thought the characters had done a great job. So, like, do you think that these characters have the same...
I mean, they could. They're still based off of classical figures, Confucius, and then, as you were saying, Christopher Columbus, who goes by Topher Bus now, and then you have Frida Kahlo as
Frida
well.
Kahlo was, like, the main girl, right?
It just seemed, though, that they weren't as interesting as the main 3, being, again, Abe Lincoln, Joan of Arc, and JFK.
But that might just be the nostalgia factor playing into it a little bit, or maybe more.
I mean, maybe, but I did just watch these episodes like a couple days ago. And
the other thing it reminded me of, though, was 21 Jump Street, which obviously the creators, Christopher Miller and Phil Lord, were in charge of.
I was going to say it's almost a complete copy of that, because Joan of Arc is now the one that's like incredibly successful, when back in 2003 she was always kind of seen as the outcast as well. And then you have Abe Lincoln, who was kind of popular.
The classical cliques have been destroyed or disbanded, and now it's a much more fleshed out and supposed to be equal society.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that, though, is that 21 Jump Street happened. That was 2012.
Yeah.
So at what point does that become a trope? Where
I feel like it already is. I feel like that's why 21 Jump Street was kind of going with that plot back in 2012, and then they're just kind of deciding to do it now.
I mean, I guess it still fits a little bit, because I guess maybe there's that social media thing. Before social media, this is how high school was.
Right.
Post social media, this is how high school is. And so maybe it's allowed to stick around longer than that 12 or 11 years it's been.
No, I think you're right, because even in the second episode, JFK gets introduced to what's essentially TikTok. It's flip-flop. That's what they go by. Yeah. And then he actually gets in like a comment section war with Topher Bus, who coincidentally is hanging out with Abe Lincoln at the same exact time.
So Topher Bus is the replacement Gandhi.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. He seems to be a lot more like hardcore, though. And even by the end of the episode, he's just completely ignoring Abe Lincoln and seems to be a lot more soft as well.
Okay, so how does that end up, though, with JFK?
So it gets so ridiculous, because it almost seems like it's a boxing match at certain points. Like, literally, the characters or that they're typing, the letters, come out of the computer screen and start punching the characters in the face. Yeah. And then it seems almost right when JFK is about to be knocked out, Confucius, who he's with at the the time comes in and realizes that Christopher Columbus is spelling "your" wrong. It's not with the apostrophe. And then when he points that out, Topher Bust gets completely knocked out. I mean, like, that's what I think is, like, when the show is at its best. When it just goes the completely ridiculous route, you also have Joan of Arc. She's hanging out a lot with Harriet Tubman and Frida Kahlo. They are deciding to have a sleepover.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because that's the name of the episode, is Sleepover, and nothing of what you had said thus far has anything to do with that.
Yeah, so the big thing is, apparently, Harriet Tubman and Frida Kahlo, when they were really young, killed someone.
Oh, of course.
So they thought, because they were playing Never Have I Ever.
All right. So this was the part that they were talking about on the review when they said it was like, I Know What You Did Last Summer, right? Where they accidentally thought that they killed someone.
Yeah.
Yes.
They like run over someone with a bicycle, and then
which again is a movie from like the 90s. So you'd think that the references would be super up to date, but no. Like I thought they would be channeling the Riverdales and the Gossip Girls or the Pretty Little Liars, the stuff of these years.
Well, you saw the first 15 minutes, right? So you saw the principal, Scudworth, how he does that whole song and is talking about 2004.
I did like that. It reminded me so much of Animaniacs, too. Because Animaniacs did the exact same thing, where it came back from the 90s and it like had its three main characters go into a full like breakdown of the past.
I like the song. I like the song, too. Also, the fact that it was 6 hours. But not only Animaniacs, but as we've kind of brought up already, Riverdale, that scene where Jughead is kind of back in the 50s and having to explain to people everything that has gone on decades later, but is having to do so in such like a quick-witted way, you know.
Yeah, so how does the sleepover end up?
Yeah, so Joan of Arc doesn't really believe them. She's been burned so much by her past for being bullied in the original series that they go to the place where they thought the body was, they dig it up, and they see that the Doritos that the person was eating, and I think the Sprite that the person was eating was still there, but not the body. And then the body ends up being actually just on a bike. The guy is still alive, and he's talking about how he apparently forgives them because when they ran over him, he like got his life together and started like opening up to people and becoming friends with them. Good. That's what I mean. So when I say like it's ridiculous, I think that the second episode is actually a lot better than the first.
Well, it just sounds like a heartfelt like episode, even though I know Bill Lawrence does stuff like Ted Lasso, which has heart, Scrubs, which had heart, but I always thought that this show remained more cynical than those.
Yeah, no, actually, I would say that like this, when you bring in adult comedy TV shows, really animated shows such as like BoJack Horseman, Rick and Morty, or even Harley Quinn or anything like that, they always have this like really dramatic side to them, and it becomes like even more part of the plot as the shows go on. But I would actually compare this show to more like something like What We Do in the Shadows, where nothing of this is supposed to be taken actually really that seriously.
Does Abe Lincoln end up with Joan or Cleopatra by the end of the second episode?
By the end of the second episode, no. But the big thing is that Joan of Arc, and this happens at the end of the first episode, decides to start going out with JFK.
Yeah, he had already asked her out by that point. It seems weird, but like even though I haven't seen the first season, when I started watching this one, I did feel nostalgic. Like it felt like, because it's kind of got the Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Sam, like they based it off a lot of Genndy Tartakovsky, the animation style,
yeah.
The 50s, 60s UPA style.
And the animation style is really good too. It's really colorful.
Did you like it more the second season or like in the first season? Because some people have pointed out how like, I think it's Cleopatra's hair is now a little bit curved. People were getting really into it.
Yeah, apparently. It must have a serious fan base.
It's the same animation studios that did Pinocchio, the Guillermo del Toro one.
Oh, okay, the actual
Shadow
good
Machine.
One.
Yeah, but it's not the same people, I don't think, from the first season. So it is a little different.
I'm having trouble deciding which one was better, because with the first season you do get kind of the, as we said, nostalgia, but also like original, and there is something about it being like the original animation.
Well, I was saying that like even this season, the 15 minutes I saw reminded me so much of like 2000s early animated stuff that it felt as though I was watching literally the adult version of one of those like SpongeBob shows, but now, you know?
Yeah, well, it's a lot clearer too, and like I said, the colors are more vibrant, but that's actually what reminded me a little bit of Velma, because Velma did look shockingly similar to something like this, despite the fact that I think this is 100 times better than Velma probably ever will be. And also, I'm glad that they kept the same type of humor too. Yeah, there is the jokes about them being like kind of old now, and again flip-flop and TikTok and all of those like modern.
Does anybody
references.
call them a boomer?
No, thankfully not. That would probably ruin the show. But also it keeps the same type of strange, I guess, humorous anti-humor that the first season had.
The first season had an episode called Snowflake Day, which was weird because in 2003, I didn't even think that was a term people used for like overly sensitive people.
Yeah, it was so what I believe that was a special, and I think that was episode 11. Right? Yeah, no, but like this was like an actual special.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, that basically what was people were tired of it being Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa, and them kind of sectioning off all of them.
It was like the war on Christmas, but that happened way earlier than I even thought that it happened. Like I thought the word snowflake being like a liberal / conservative like battle point was. That was way more in the 2010s. Right?
Yeah, well, that's actually the thing about this season that is very different than the first season. It is bringing in a lot of politics, which I do think actually is a negative for the show, because the first season didn't really rely on any of that stuff. Sure, you're dealing with...
We have become more political as a society, so maybe that's what we're polarized. So
yeah, but then they start making fun of political correctness, and there's all this different stuff, and I felt like it definitely dragged the show down from what it could have been. That being said, I'm still going to watch the rest of this season, because I like the first season so much, and the first 2 episodes of this are fine as well. I would probably give them a 7 out of 10.
All right, well, let's play a couple games. These are more about clones. Rather than, so it's just about the science behind it, because it's kind of got the Powerpuff Girl thing where it explains how these clones were created.
Yeah, right? in the intro for the first season, it's done a lot better, because it's like, these scientists just wanted to create these clones, and we even learned in the first episode, it's because they want them to take over the world. Yeah, Scudworth, he's the principal.
It wasn't just Scudworth?
No, he's the one that's like created additional clones and is the principal of the school, but I think it was multiple scientists.
Interesting. Okay, so here's how the game works. I've got 3 different cloning facts. One of them is false. You tell me which one's false, right? Number 1, Dolly, the famous clone sheep, the first clone ever, was named after Dolly Parton's boobs. Number 2, in 2018, a man working for SUSTech announced that he had created the first human genetically edited babies using the CRISPR method, earning widespread international condemnation. Number 3, in 2020, the University of Georgia announced it was in the process of cloning the woolly mammoth using 10,000-year-old tissue. One of those is fake. Which is it?
I'm going to go with... I mean, the baby one just sounds so ridiculous.
Because he works for SUSTech. Yeah. And it was a terrible thing to do.
I'm gonna go with the last one, the woolly mammoth.
And you'd be right. Yeah, so that's a common misconception, though, is that we've been able to collect woolly mammoth DNA and that we're in the process of making it. That's actually, we've had no viable mammoth tissue to use. So maybe
because I remember back in 4th grade, I watched this documentary, and that was, I guess, 2008 at the time, where they had just recently discovered a woolly mammoth, and they were making sure nothing went to waste because of how rare they are.
I have one more game for you, but this one's about cryogenics, which is what happens when people freeze their body when they die, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so one of these is a false fact. You get to tell me which one it is. Number 1, $200,000 for a body, $80,000 for just the brain. That's how much you have to pay in order to get your body frozen. Number 2, oldest man frozen died in what year, do you think? 1967. Maybe? Yes or no? You'll say no. Okay. Number 3, Larry King wanted to be frozen, but ultimately decided not to. Simon Cowell does want to be frozen. Those are together. Mm-hmm. And then the last one is hourglassing is the next most common chosen body experience by percentages after cryogenics, yeah. So hourglassing is where you become cremated and then they stick your remains into an hourglass and it goes down in the hourglass.
Oh,
and so you get to spend time with your relatives.
Wow, that is such a stretch. Okay, one of these you're saying is true?
One of these is false.
One of these is false.
All of them were true except for one.
Okay, I'm going to go with the hourglassing thing because that just seems so ridiculous.
Well, that actually does happen, but it's not the next one in experiences. If by percentages, that's not the next way that people choose to die. I think it's done by a very few amount of people. There's also one that's called, I think, shotgunning, which is your ashes get put into a shotgun, and then people are able to shoot it off.
I think I have heard of that before, yeah.
It's weird, man.
That is bad.
Got some very strange people.
Strange.
Anyway, so Collider said this was fresher than ever, the show. Hollywood Reporter gave it a positive review. It really hasn't been out long enough to get a huge consensus, but it does seem like for the most part, people like it. Again, you've got some fans griping about how Gandhi's not there or how the animation isn't as similar as it used to be. Some people even complaining a little bit about the voices. But did they seem normal to you?
The voices seem normal to me, and it is like fun to hear Will Forte kind of do everything that he was doing in the first season with the previous leads, and even the song they changed it up a little bit, but it's still kind of nice to hear that. I know that there was that whole entire thing about Gandhi, but that really does. I think he was almost as crazy as he was, and he is crazy in the first season, the moral center of the show.
They floated by the idea when the show was originally getting pitched as for a season 2, and they were like, let's just either get rid of Gandhi completely, or we can say he was actually a clone of Gary Coleman.
Wait, that was actually something they were
and the
thinking
network
about
said,
doing?
absolutely not, you're canceled.
There is also jokes in the first season about the show being canceled. In fact, Joan of Arc even says, I think in the second episode, that back in 2003, there was only one woman working in like writing rooms, and then she winks at the camera, showing that was actually the case back in 2003.
Okay.
Things like that work, but I do wish Gandhi was in the show.
I was surprised how many people from Scrubs were in this. Like, I was a big fan of Scrubs, and they actually took the voices from the first season in the hospital that they filmed Scrubs. So they have like the entire, like Sarah Chalk did people, then Donald Faison did people, Zach Braff did people, even Neil Flynn did people, the janitor.
Do you know who Zach Braff played?
Yeah, sure. It says Zach Braff played Extreme Mike and Paul Revere.
I don't even remember them being in the series.
Okay, well, maybe that's this season.
Possibly.
No. It would have had to have been, because the whole point was like that it was the Scrubs staff that Bill Lawrence was basically trying to do two things at once and was able to do so. Yeah, but other than that, you like the show. I think the intro song, the melodramatic 90s kind of rock theme thing was kind of cool to bring back as well. It's still keeping some of the story's original stuff with it, because you don't see a lot of teenage shows doing that anymore, where they have the kind of rock intro.
Yeah.
That was more of a Dawson's Creek type era thing. But yeah, any other facts you want to talk about?
No, I think that I basically covered everything.
All right, thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.